Alaska is one of the last places where you are not automatically at the top of the food chain, and a handful of animals here know it. Almost everything wild runs from you, and that deal is what keeps hikers alive. But a few animals never signed it, and they look at a person the way they look at a caribou, as warm meat that wandered too far from cover. Today we are counting down 12 animals in Alaska that will actually hunt you down, ranked by one thing only: how willing each one is to close the distance instead of open it. And the one at number 1 hunts people because that is what it is built to do. Before we start, if this is your kind of thing, take a second to subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. And where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and let's get into the list. Number 12, the coyote. We start with the animal most people do not even know made it this far north. Coyotes were not always here. They pushed up into Alaska on their own about 100 years ago, following the roads and the cleared land and the gut piles hunters leave behind. And now they run across most of the mainland, from the Kenai clear up into the interior. An Alaska coyote is a lean 30 to 40 pounds, and on its own it is no real threat to a grown adult. That is not why it opens the list. It opens the list because of what it does once it has stopped being afraid of you. A coyote that has learned there is food where people are will start to shadow you. It hangs just past the porch light. It trails a jogger at a distance, reading whether the small dog on the leash is worth a rush. It is not stalking you exactly, it is pricing you out. Up here they often work in pairs, running down snowshoe hares and voles across the snow, and a pair that has learned a neighborhood will treat every loose cat and unattended small dog as a standing offer. The bolder they get, the closer they come, until people who swore there was nothing dangerous behind their house are watching a wild predator hold its ground in the yard at dusk. And every single animal above it on this list does that same math with more conviction and more teeth. Number 12 is the smallest version of an idea that runs through the whole list, that some things out here are watching, quietly, to work out what you are worth. Number 11, the wolverine. And right away we break the pattern, because the most fearsome animal for its size in the entire North is also the one least likely to ever come for you. A wolverine weighs maybe 30 pounds and fights like it weighs 300. It will drive a grizzly off a fresh kill. It will crack and eat frozen bone that a wolf gives up on. Trappers have told the same stories for 200 years, about a low, dark shape that backs down from nothing and screams in the dark like something being hurt. All of that is real. And yet, the record of a wolverine actually hunting a human being is essentially blank. It wants the meat in your cache, not the meat on you. So why put it here at all? Because it draws the line that everything below it crosses. Ferocity is not the same thing as intent. A wolverine could wreck you and simply cannot be bothered. And you will almost certainly never test the theory, because it lives at a density of maybe one animal across hundreds of square miles of the roughest country in the state, ranging farther in a day than most predators cover in a week. The people who spend their whole lives in the backcountry might see one or two in a lifetime, usually as a dark shape crossing a distant slope, gone before they can be sure it was real. Every animal from this point up is less impressive on paper and far more willing to make you the point. Number 10. The stellar sea lion. Now we go into the water, where your instincts are at their worst. Most people file sea lions under the clowns barking on a dock in California. The stellar is a different creature entirely. A bull can reach 11 feet and weigh well over 2,000 pounds, which makes it the largest sea lion on Earth, and a large share of the world's population lives along the coast of Alaska. On land, near a rookery, a bull will charge anything that crosses a line it has drawn in its own head, and it moves across wet rock far faster than something that shape has any right to. But the real danger is under the surface. There are documented cases of these animals rising up beneath a person at a dock or off the back of a boat, clamping down and dragging them straight under before anyone on top understood what was happening. No warning shape on the water, no fin, nothing at all. Just a shadow the size of a cow coming up from below with the entire weight of the ocean behind it. And in the water, it has every advantage you do not. It is faster than you, it never tires the way you do, and it can hold you down without effort while it decides what you are. A bull guarding a stretch of rock in breeding season is defending territory. It will not share with anything, and it does not care in the slightest that you did not know where the line was. Number 10 is the reminder that the moment you leave solid ground in Alaska, you are standing in someone else's house, and they are far bigger than you pictured. Number 9, the moose. And I already know the objection. A moose is not a hunter. It eats willow and pondweeds. It wants absolutely nothing from your body, and dropping it onto a list about being hunted sounds like a cheat. So here is the fact that earns its spot. In Alaska, more people are injured by moose every year than by bears. Not because a moose wants to hurt anyone. Because a moose weighs up to 1,500 pounds, stands taller at the shoulder than you are tall, and has a temper that runs hot at exactly the moment you are least ready for it. A cow with a calf in the spring will decide you are a threat from 40 feet off and come without a second thought. A bull in the autumn rut, flooded with hormones, will run down anything that irritates him. And in a brutal winter, when the snow is deep and the animal is starving and worn thin, a moose standing on a packed trail will not step aside for you. It will lay its ears back, drop that heavy head, put you on the ground, and stomp with both front hooves until whatever it was afraid of stops moving. It does not hunt you the way a predator hunts. It runs you down the way a truck does, and out on the trail the result is exactly the same. Do not let number 9 fool you with what is on its dinner plate. Number 8, the rabid fox. This one hunts you, and the strangest part is that it is not really the fox doing the hunting. Across northern and western Alaska, the fox, red and Arctic both, is the main carrier of a strain of rabies that has circulated in these populations for as far back as the records go. A healthy fox is a shy, flickering thing at the edge of the tundra, gone before you can lift a camera. Rabies rewrites that animal from the inside. It burns out the fear and replaces it with drive. An infected fox will trot straight into a village in broad daylight, walk right up to a chained sled dog or a child or a stack of fuel drums, and bite whatever is in front of it, and it will keep coming back after being kicked away. What is hunting you is the disease itself, steering the animal like a vehicle, because biting is precisely how it climbs into the next host. It can carry the virus for weeks before the behavior changes, so the animal that walks up to you looks, for a moment, almost tame, right up until it fastens on. Dogs left chained outside a cabin are often the first to be bitten, and from there it moves straight toward the people. And once the symptoms show in a person who was not treated in time, rabies is very nearly always fatal. Number 8 is the only predator on this list wearing another creature's body. We are at the halfway point, and if you are still here, you are clearly the kind of person who actually wants to know what shares this country with us, not just the postcard version of it. So, if you have not already, this is the moment to hit subscribe, because everything from here up is an animal that will come at you under its own power, on purpose, and mean it. The follows and the freak accidents are behind us now. The hunters start here. Number 7, the salmon shark. There is a shark in the Gulf of Alaska that most of the people who fish those waters have never even heard of, and it is built like a scaled-down great white. The salmon shark is a close cousin of the white shark, warm-blooded in freezing water, running up to around 10 feet long, and in some Alaska waters they gather in numbers that would empty a beach anywhere else on Earth. They are fast, they are heavy, and they are armed exactly the way you are afraid they are. By every measure that ought to matter, this is an animal fully equipped to hunt a person without breaking a sweat. And here is the part that unsettles me. It almost never does. Confirmed attacks on humans are close to non-existent, even with thousands of these sharks sharing the water with commercial crews every single season. They gather in tearing, boiling numbers where the salmon run thickest, and when one washes up on a beach, people routinely mistake it for a young great white, because at a glance there is barely a difference. The fishermen who haul them off long lines will tell you they are all muscle and teeth and bad attitude. So the salmon shark lands at number 7 not for a body count, but for the size of the gap between what it can do and what it chooses to do. It is a loaded weapon that has, so far, left the safety on, which is a strange thing to owe your life to. It should make you wonder how much of your safety in that water was ever really yours to control. Number 6, the mountain goat. You have filed this animal under postcards. White, sure-footed, perched on a cliff no human could ever reach, minding its own business 1,000 feet up. That is the version you were sold, and it is a lie of omission. The truth is that a mountain goat is heavily armed, deeply territorial, and in the wrong mood willing to come down off the rock and settle things. Those horns are not decoration. They are slim black daggers, and a big billy knows how to use them. In one well-documented case in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest, a goat that had grown far too comfortable around people started following a hiker along a popular trail, refused every attempt to scare it off, and finally gored him to death in front of the others there. Rangers had been tracking that goat and others like it for years because they had taken to following hikers on the trail and refusing to give way. And there is a reason they linger near people in the first place. Goats crave salt and minerals, and they are drawn to the exact spots where hikers sweat and relieve themselves along a trail. So the busiest routes become the ones where the goats hang closest and lose the most fear. Alaska's coastal ranges are thick with these animals, and the ones near heavy foot traffic shed their caution the exact same way. Number 6 is the prey animal that got tired of running and taught itself to advance. Number 5, the black bear. And now we fix the single biggest mistake people make about bears in Alaska. Everyone is terrified of the grizzly and relaxed about the black bear. Bluff the black bear, they say. Make noise, throw your arms up, it runs every time. And most of the time that is genuinely true. But here is the line the safety pamphlets bury down at the bottom. Black bear attacks are rare to begin with, and most of them are a frightened bear lashing out or a bear after an easy meal. The rare ones that kill are a different story. When a black bear actually hunts a person down and kills them, it was not startled, not protecting cubs, not guarding a carcass. It looked at a human being, decided that was food, and started hunting. A predatory black bear does not roar and bluster and leave. It comes in quietly, it circles, and it tests you and backs off, then returns after you have convinced yourself you drove it away, and it presses with a flat, patient calm that is so much worse than rage. This is the bear that trails a person down a trail for a full mile without making a sound, and it flips the survival rule you thought you knew. With a defensive bear, you can sometimes play dead and wait it out. With a black bear that is hunting you, playing dead is handing yourself over, and the only thing left is to fight, loudly and without stopping, and hope you convince it the meal is not worth the fight. Alaska holds around 100,000 of them, scattered through nearly every wooded corner of the state. The animal you were told to worry about the least is the one on this entire list most likely to be genuinely, deliberately hunting you. Number 5 is the friendly-looking one, and that is exactly the trap. Number 4, the grizzly, the interior brown bear that the whole world sees in its head when it hears the word Alaska. A big male can clear 700 pounds, run 35 miles an hour across open ground, which is faster than any Olympic sprinter who ever lived, and cover that first 40 feet before your hand has even reached whatever you were hoping might save you. Most grizzly attacks are defensive. You surprise a sow with cubs at close range, or you walk up on a moose carcass she is feeding on, and she erases the threat with a speed that ends the whole encounter in a few seconds. The claws on a grizzly run as long as your fingers. The jaws can crack a moose femur, and none of it comes with a warning you will have time to use. On the salmon streams in late summer, where the brush is head high and the water is loud, people walk right into bears at a distance measured in feet, and there is no backing out of that gracefully. That alone would earn her a high spot. But grizzlies also, now and then, hunt. A bear that has learned people are soft and slow, or an old bear that is struggling to feed itself, will sometimes stop treating you as a danger to be neutralized and start treating you as a meal to be collected. When that switch flips, the bluff charges end and something colder and more deliberate takes their place. Number 4 is the animal that can outrun you, outclimb you, and outthink you, and once in a while decides it would like to. Number 3, the gray wolf. For most of the last century, the experts said it flatly, over and over, until it hardened into one of those facts everyone repeats without checking. Wild wolves in North America do not kill people. And then, on the 8th of March 2010, a 32-year-old special education teacher named Candace Berner went out for an afternoon jog on a road just outside the tiny village of Chignik Lake, out on the Alaska Peninsula. She never came home. People on snow machines found her body about a mile out, dragged off the road toward the lagoon, wolf tracks and drag marks circling all around it. It was the first fatal wolf attack in the recorded history of Alaska. But what puts the wolf this high is not that single death. It is the way it happened. A wolf pack does not bluff, and it does not lose its temper. It reads a target, it tests, it works as one unit, and then it commits. That is not aggression, that is a hunt. The very same coordinated hunt that runs a moose to exhaustion in deep snow. To a pack that has quietly stopped seeing people as off-limits, a lone jogger on an open road is not a person at all. It is prey that has cut itself off from the herd. In the days after Berner died, state biologists tracked 2 wolves from the air and shot them, and a village that had lived alongside wolves for generations started carrying rifles to the mailbox and keeping the children close. Her death was only the second fatal wild wolf attack recorded in modern North America, the other a young man pulled down in the forests of northern Canada 5 years before. Rare is not the same as impossible, and rare is very little comfort when you are the one out on the road. Number 3 is the one that hunts you as a team. Number 2, the coastal brown bear. Same species as the grizzly on paper, and yet not remotely the same animal in the flesh. Feed a brown bear an entire coastline's worth of salmon every summer for a handful of years, and it grows into something that barely fits the category anymore. On Kodiak Island and along the salmon rivers of the southern coast, these bears reach sizes that rival the polar bear itself, the largest land predators walking the planet, well past 1,000 pounds, standing 10 feet tall when they rise up onto their back legs. The Kodiak bears have been cut off on their islands for thousands of years, growing into a giant all their own, packed onto the salmon rivers at some of the highest bear densities found anywhere on Earth. A big Kodiak boar, fattened through the fall, can weigh close to 1,500 pounds and still outrun a horse over open ground, which quietly erases the last comforting thought you had left, that something so huge must at least be slow. At that scale, every piece of advice you were ever given quietly falls apart. You cannot outrun it. You never could. And now, the gap is a joke. You cannot climb away from it. You cannot fight it. The thought alone is almost funny. And the ones living near people are frequently the worst of all, because a brown bear that has learned to connect humans with an easy meal, a sloppy fish camp, an unsecured dumpster, a cooler left out overnight, sheds the last of its caution and starts to file you under food. Number 2 is the animal so enormous that your entire survival plan comes down to it deciding, all on its own, that you are not worth the walk over. Number 1, the polar bear. It is the animal that throws the whole question out entirely, because it does not need you to be careless, cornered, or unlucky in any way at all. Every other predator on this list has some reason it usually leaves you alone, whether it is full or frightened or guarding something it will abandon the moment you stop being a threat. The polar bear carries none of that with it. It evolved out on the sea ice hunting seals, warm-blooded meat that hauls itself out into the open with nowhere left to hide, and to a polar bear that is precisely what you are. A person out on the ice is not a threat to be measured or a rival to be driven off. You are food that turned up walking on 2 legs. It will spot you from a very long way out, and it will begin to close, not in a sudden charge, but in a patient, unhurried stalk that can go on for a very long time, because on the open ice there is simply nothing for you to disappear behind. There is no tree to climb, no brush to fold into, and no bluff on Earth that works. Up along Alaska's Arctic coast, in the villages where the pack ice grinds right up to the edge of town, none of this is theory. And it is getting worse, not better, because as the sea ice pulls back earlier and further every year, more bears are forced onto land, hungry, spending more of the season prowling the shoreline right where people live. It is the reason people in those towns do not walk alone in the dark near the water in the season the bears come in off the ice, and the reason a trip to the edge of the village can mean carrying a rifle you truly hope you never have to raise. Number 1 is the only animal on this list that was already hunting you before it ever laid eyes on you. So that is the real difference with Alaska. It is not that these animals are meaner than the ones anywhere else. It is that a few of them still count you as part of the food chain instead of standing safely above it. And out here, on the ice or deep in the brush, you do not always get a vote.